You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we will be talking about the final day of the second test between England and the West Indies, which once again sadly ended in a draw. Arguably a more interesting draw than the last one by a difference of 1 wicket, but so it was. Ross and I will be whizzing through that in as much detail as we can muster for all the action that there was. Jack's poorly today, so he won't be joining us, but Ross is here. Ross, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm okay, actually. I'm really glad this test match is over.
Yeah, well, I suppose if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all, right? Taught well by brought up well by your parents. Before we get into the actual cricket, do you want to quickly run through the messages as they are?
Yes, we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. Go to seriouscricket.co.uk, use code TCP22 for 10% off all equipment, and get yourself sorted for the new season in England. We are on Twitter and Instagram at the Cricket Pod. Follow us on there, and on Patreon you'll get Discord access, you'll get IPL data, you'll get special episodes and a whole bunch of other bits for $5 a month. So go and sign up to there, and you'll get even more of the Cricket Podcast.
Wonderful. Okay, well let's let's get into the action then. And day 5 started with England facing an uphill struggle really to eke a win out of the game. The time was against them. It was the order of the day was go out, hit some quick runs and see what you can do. And they did the first bit. They came out and hit some quick runs. There was some lusty blows from the likes of Stokes and Bairstow, setting up some outside hope, even in between the odd shower that there was. Slightly curious that after Bairstow did depart, and Lawrence as well, after refusing a few singles, which was an interesting move, Folks and Wokes seemed content to tap the ball around for about 20 minutes before England eventually declared after an early lunch was called due to the rain. So I'm sure we'll have a bit to talk about with that. And as it came to the West Indies innings, there was a brief flash of hope, wasn't there, with 3 wickets falling fairly early. But once again, that man, Kraigg Brathwaite, was immovable and brought England to their knees. Fortunately for England, that was quite helpful because Johnny Bairstow actually pouched a slip catch on his knees in something that I particularly enjoyed. But from there on in, there was little more to cheer for England, and it was safely seen out by Brathwaite and Josh De Silva. So one more draw, still 0-0 in the series so far with 1 game to play. 0-0 in the FA Cup quarter-final with 10 minutes to go, perhaps. Where do you want to start, Ross? What caught your eye today?
Well, Max, the big question that is on everyone's lips, especially if your name is Carlos, was it disrespectful that England tried to bowl West Indies out today?
I was looking forward to seeing England once again go down to the wire after the consternation of the first. I wasn't around for that discussion, so I don't know actually what you and Jack came to as in terms of conclusion. But from my point of view, because he said England wouldn't do it if they were against New Zealand or India or Australia, and I'm thinking, Australia would always do that, wouldn't they? They'd be bowling every single possible ball, because it's at the end of the day, it's elite international sport, and there might be a 1 in a million chance if you're taking the last 4 wickets in 4 balls, but it could happen. So why not?
I did find it interesting today when there was an over left. Joe Root was bowling it in his ridiculous hair and hairband. Yeah. It's offensive. His look at the moment. Now, as England captured it, it's just an offensive look. And once he bowled the second ball of the over,
he carried on.
Like, why did he finish? Like that was the bit where I was just like, look, you're not going to bowl 2 more overs. You're not going to take magical wickets, so they'll just walk off the pitch. Like, it's absolutely fine. Was pretty interesting. But overall, Max, the pitch was docile. There was 4 centuries from Root, Stokes, Brathwaite and Blackwood. Every bowler toiled. But the big winner of this test match is Kraigg Brathwaite. He earned every penny, the West Indies Cricket Board probably is the big winner. Like, Kraigg Brathwaite earned every single penny of his match fee. He fielded for 190 overs, and then batted for 670 odd balls. That is one, an unbelievable level of fitness. Two, the aptitude to do that is incredible, and then three, actually the determination to kind of, he's the captain of this side and leading that is a monumental thing to do, right? The West Indies have not lost here purely on the efforts of one man, and that is Kraigg Brathwaite.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, you said the number, you said what, 607, that's over 110 overs of cricket that he faced on his own. That's insane. It was like 2 full days at the crease, on top of all the fielding that he had to do. So I mean, that's a monumental effort. He will be, I would imagine,
he'll sleep well tonight, won't he? He'll sleep well.
Pretty knackered. And yeah, well, what could you say apart from? I mean, I suppose the other thing about it was he was so solid as well. You know, it wasn't there were. I don't recall too many hairy moments for him in either of those ridiculously long innings. There was a very small, I think, glove towards the end of Jack Leach, which could have been pouched by a close fielder. But aside from that, it was pretty impressive. It made Babar Azam look like a chump.
Can you imagine someone goes, "Oh, it was a pretty flaky 670 innings"? Like, that would be ridiculous. Like,
well, yeah, I suppose, but you know, people bat for. Yes, people score hundreds and they get dropped 3 times, don't they? You only need to have a look at Marnus Labuschagne for that. But I mean, I suppose that's the point, isn't it? Like, it was a largely chanceless 670 ball vigil over the course of 5 days.
And I think that bit that we're kind of talking about there, like paying that respect to Kraigg Brathwaite, is where I think some followers of cricket let themselves down a little bit. I think that the difference in reporting is actually quite amusing when it comes to looking at what England did. So Joe Root and Ben Stokes' century. Stokes' century was really entertaining, right? Yeah. But the England boys hitting those runs was met with, whoa, look at these dudes. They're amazing at cricket. And yeah, decent to watch. But when the West Indies were doing what they had to do, right? If a team hits 500 odd plus, they are on the back foot. There's a very small chance they're going to win the game. They have to make sure that they are going, you know what, if we can't win this, we're definitely going to make sure we can't lose this. And that is what they did, right? And the West Indies batters did exactly that, especially obviously Kraigg Brathwaite. But then some of the people, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's in the media, whatever, are kind of saying, well, how dull. This is ruining Test cricket. Cry, 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 cry. And I just don't really understand that narrative.
Well, it's a bit Anglo-centric, isn't it, at times? That is a bit of an issue. Because, you know, that's the other thing. You look at, on the one hand, you're like, oh, what a performance by Joe Root, etc., Johnny Bairstow first time around. And then you flick it round to when the West Indies are playing and he scores 160 off 450 balls. It's like, well, England are just toothless, aren't they? They just don't have the tools. And it's like, come on. Yeah. And Kraigg Brathwaite bats like that. That's how he bats. Like, he's not changed anything in terms of his approach. This is him. Like, the 50 he scored. What was really nice stat was the 50 he scored in the first test was his quickest ever 50 in Test match cricket, and the 50 he scored in the second test was his slowest. That was a lovely juxtaposition. But I mean, it just it's just he just batted really well, and England are a bit toothless with the ball. We know that, but you know, West Indies' bowling lineup isn't exactly the top of its game at the moment either, with missing Shannon Gabriel, and so I think we can say it was a win for the batters and a win for the a loss for the pitch.
So that gum diseased ridden question or statement you just made there about being toothless. But this is a bit the naysaying on the seamers on both sides. Let's be fair; it's not just the England seamers who have been toothless; it's been both sides. Is it completely justified? Because this was a batter's pitch, right? If a batsman was just like, you know what, if I'm going to have a pitch that is going to really trouble me, I'm likely to get a century. You're going to play on this and be like, yeah, this was great. Is the negativity towards Chris Woakes actually deserved? Yes, his bowling average is 50 away from home or whatever it might be, but did these conditions actually suit any seamer really in this situation? And would there have been any difference if Broderson were actually playing? I'm not sure. I'm not sure there would have been.
I doubt it. I think I guess Anderson and Broad. I think I touched on this the other day with someone, one of the other people I did with the podcast with, and think that maybe they'd have kept things tight, and they might have got an extra wicket or two just from bowling that consistent line as they do. But no, I mean there's only so much you can do as a bowler, isn't there? And I think Chris Woakes is the problem he's got, I suppose, is his reputation of overseas and not being particularly good overseas, and sort of doesn't help.
You're going to get doubled down on, don't you? Really,
exactly. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't a good pitch for anyone to take wickets on, was it? Again, so I don't think we can blame Chris Woakes in particular. I would like to see what would have happened if you'd had Mitchell Starc and Pat Cummins and Josh Hazlewood and Shaheen Afridi and Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammed Shami all bowling on this pitch, and to see whether there'd be much difference. And I highly doubt it, to be honest.
When Alzari Joseph is facing 70 odd deliveries, know this is
exactly. I mean, this is an England side who hadn't scored over 300 in 13 attempts or whatever.
13 years, I think.
Yeah, and they've gone and hit 507, and what was it? 300 odd in the first test. 507 in this one. It's like, yeah. Sometimes you're on a hiding to nothing, aren't you? So let's spare them a bit of negativity and just give them a chance.
So overall, Max, Leach was playing obviously as the senior spinner. Dan Lawrence came in and did all right, really. Like Dan Lawrence bowling is actually pretty decent. Like,
I want to see. He gets a lovely seam position, doesn't he, on his off spin?
I want to see more Dan Lawrence is what I want to see. I think it was Jared Kimber got a quote from him saying that, well, I realised that when I come into bowl, I look off. I don't look like a spin bowler. I look a bit odd, but I love bowling. And that is how many people in village cricket or like amateur cricket are like that? Like where there is a bit where it doesn't look technically correct, but actually it's okay. And I really enjoy the fact that is on the international stage.
Well, you've got you've got the flip side to that, haven't you? Like when it's such a windmilly action, you never know when the release point actually is. So it's even harder to face. Like when you got those people who do the sort of like jump and release the ball too early in their delivery stride, and then you spoon one up to cover because you're 15 years early on the shot. It's a bit like that.
I think the run up is actually an underutilized thing from a bowler. Like actually, in terms of distraction, I think the more elaborate, the better. Like I remember we were playing junior cricket, and there was a guy who was playing, and this guy was like quite overweight, and he was coming into bowl, and genuinely his man boobs were up, down, and it was always like you've got this guy coming in, steaming at you, and literally there's so much like kind of going on. There's so much like movement.
You're watching the ball out of their hand.
Yeah, you're kind of watching this like massive like white carrier bag full of custard come in and bowl against you, and that's quite disconcerting.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be.
Yeah, and you're kind of just like, what am I trying? I've got to look at the ball, but there's so much going on here. I want to also look at this, and I'm kind of wondering, when we're in that situation, like I don't know, Mark Wood wears a funny hat. There's face paint on, something that kind of just mixes it up for people. And Dan Lawrence actually got drift, got turn, got bounce. As a spin bowler, if you're getting those three things, you're going to be relatively dangerous. Might not be very consistent, but as a part-time option, really, really useful. And I think we saw today, again with the bat, his kind of intent, his ability to hit, as well as his temperament to actually play as a number 4 in Test match cricket, because Joe Root's moved up to 3, is fantastic. And it just shows, I think, a lot of the England fans, that there was a missed opportunity. Maybe not. We're not going to win the Ashes because he played in those games, but you showed that him not playing in the Ashes was a bit of a mistake in terms of selection, I think.
Maybe, yeah. I think England's entire selection for the Ashes was a mistake, wasn't it? So it's very easy after the fact, though. Who knows how Dan Lawrence would have done in that series, because everyone struggled, didn't they? But it is nice to see him in there and doing well, because he's I always felt like he's shown a bit of promise in the opportunities he's had, but never really cemented it, has he? Not got that 100 that he probably should. But he fits well in the
Hashtag Red
England
Bull
order.
reset.
Yeah. But the other side of it is whether he can dig in as well, because obviously we've got, when you're looking at Crawley, Brute, Bairstow, Stokes, there's also the flip side that if things aren't, if you haven't got a great platform to set from, you might have to dig in. So
I'm a Dan Lawrence buyer at this point in time. I'm a Dan Lawrence buyer.
Right.
Taffy G is just Taffy G's just asked, when will you do the IPL team reviews, folks? We've done Group A. They're being released day by day. We started today. I think we did Rajasthan Royals and Mumbai Indians today. There'll be 2 more tomorrow, Max, and then then we're recording tomorrow night the Group B IPL teams. Yes. So you can get all of that, and we are the best podcast for covering the IPL. I say that with no misconception. Like, if you know a better cricket podcast covering the IPL, I want to fucking know, because
based in the UK.
No, anywhere.
Okay, anywhere in the world.
Last year, Max, we had more followers on than on ESPN. So we're the best. Right. Anyway, back to England.
After the navel gazing interlude, back to the cricket.
Yeah. Next, so I don't think there's too many things that we can really cover. Right, the batting from England in the second innings was expected.
Yeah.
The wickets that we got were mostly pointless, really, because they were all people trying to smash out. Bairstow taking that catch at the most silly second slip you've ever seen.
Just brilliant. Honestly, one of those favourite things I've ever seen on a cricket pitch. It was so good. It was so good. They had 2 at one point, 2 slips on their knees. I don't think I've seen it before. Do you remember seeing?
No, I've seen Trescothick kind of on his knees at Somerset, kind of in that position.
Yeah. Not on the England stage.
I don't think I've ever seen, especially like international cricket, 2 people on their knees. And you can see after 5 days of cricket, I'm surprised you don't see that more often. like maybe at cover.
Well, I mean, I'll be suggesting we bring this one out after 35 overs on a Saturday. To be honest.
Yeah. Oh, my back's slightly hurting. Is it okay?
Get the helmet on, and we'll get you in at silly.
Yeah. You're at a square leg. That's fine. Just put the lid on, and we'll just lower you down. That's absolutely okay.
If I'm the batsman in that position, I'm tempted to unfurl an almighty reverse sweep.
Yeah, but I mean, if I saw you do a reverse sweep, I'd be very surprised.
I'll tell you what, I'll bring one out in the nets, Ross. Next time you bowl at me in the nets, I'll get one out. I back myself on the reverse sweep.
All right, fine. I look forward to that. Yeah. I think some credit needs to be given to the West Indies. They had a game plan. The game plan was very similar to their last game, right? Of grind. I think if there was to be like a maybe like a consultant in their ranks, or some kind of like TED talk, you're going to have a guy walks in, there's dramatic music playing, and he just walks up to the whiteboard and literally writes the word grind in big letters. That was their purpose. That was their game plan. Their captain, who I'm guessing is one of the architects of said game plan, they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. They took the win off the table. And as much as England took 5 wickets today for not too many runs, it was after day 3 on this. It was maybe even late on day 2. Like this was a given that this game was going to end up in this position.
Yeah, well, they had to, didn't they? They had no other option when England had scored 507 in the first innings. It'd be nice to see West Indies win the toss and bat first, and see how things go from a sort of a game plan point of view. If they have to sort of set the tone of the game, because obviously the first 2 has been a case of England putting a reasonable number of runs up on the board, 400, 500. So I'd like to see how that pans out. If we particularly if we get a similarly disappointing pitch. Obviously, if we get something that's got actual juice in it for the bowlers, it doesn't really matter. Well, it would just be nice to see some actual cricket, but
Is
in
it?
terms of how the games have gone so far, that has to have been the plan for them, and 100% they've pulled that out of the bag quite nicely.
So speaking of the next game, Max, it's in Granada, which is now what? It's either going to be a 0-0 draw for the whole series, 3 matches, and you're kind of a bit like, oh yeah, these two teams were bottom of the World Test Championship, but they've proven that they're both pretty terrible. Or it's like a penalty shootout, kind of like sudden death. Like there's like you're kind of on eggshells. What's going to happen?
What was
Um,
it was the Euro? Was it Euro 2000 and I don't know when it was. It was sort of in the 2010s. It was Switzerland Ukraine, was it? It was like one of the worst penalty shootouts in the history of football, which just went on forever. It feels a bit like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I thought you were about to go to 2004 and talk about Greece's amazing triumph after pretty much
Oh, the
scoring about
1-0.
four,
Yeah.
scoring 4 goals in the whole tournament, and then still winning it. But what do you think we're going to see? Batting wise, I don't see England making any changes. Bowling wise, I think Tim has highlighted in the chat that he'd like to see Parkinson play. There is a big question mark, right, over why take him on all of these tours if
Yeah.
you're not even going to have a bit of a look?
Well, there was a very disappointing shot of him towards the end of the game where he was just like lounging on the advertising boards with his cap over his head like he was having a nap at the end of the day, and it was just like, yeah, poor bloke. Why is he here? I know you'd like to see Parkinson. I'd like to see Parkinson. I think we'd all like to see Parkinson in the side. I think Tim suggested that maybe we would bring Parkinson in for Chris Wokes. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the right approach. It very much depends on what pitch we get, doesn't it? I can't see
I think
there
Fisher
being a
goes.
two.
I think out of the seamers, Fisher is last on the list, right? I don't think you then like Chris Wokes is the spearhead of the team. He's also your number 8, which England really value as having that number 8. Do you know what?
So
We can probably get we can get 20 to 30 extra runs in that position, and I don't think the Red Bull reset is going to change that mindset. I think having a bowler who can bat rather than having 3 or 4 genuine number 11s or 10s is a preferred strategy. So I anticipate Fisher dropping out if anyone was for Parkinson.
If they get to Grenada and it looks like the pitch might be a bit juicy for the seamers, if there's a bit of grass going around, would you consider going Parkinson over Leach at all, or do you think England would? More to the point.
It's a really interesting one with Leach because, as I think we were talking about on the podcast yesterday or the day before, it was around Leach is relatively one-dimensional. Like his wicket taking delivery is the ball pitching, turning away, and trying to kind of get wickets that way. He doesn't have the arm ball. He doesn't have the one that goes the other way, and that's fine. Like he's still a good left-arm bowler. I think Parkinson, one, is completely untested at this level. Two, relatively inexperienced. Right, if you think around, like he's quite young. In terms of bowling leg spin, that is something you get better at over time, and it's something that you need to be able to kind of have confidence in yourself. I think we've seen with other spin bowlers, not just under Joe Root's captaincy, but under kind of England captaincy in general, we've not really known how to use spin bowlers, especially and treat young spin bowlers well. You don't want to have another Simon Kerrigan. You don't want to have a Mason Crane, right? You don't want to have that bit where you have someone who has got the skill, has got some talent, but then is so badly used in a test match that actually public opinion falters, which shouldn't make any fucking difference, really.
Gets shot to pieces.
Yeah, or the other side, which is that player kind of goes, do you know what? I'm not good enough to play at this level. That's a massive thing. So it'd be interesting. I would, regardless of, I know it sounds ridiculous, but regardless of what pitch they put, I can't see them putting out a green top. I think that we've seen 10 days worth of Test cricket. It's all been pretty docile. Like no one's expecting anything different. And if we were to go on do you know what, the Caribbean needs the extra money from the touring parties, like that kind of narrative, regardless if you back it or not, I can't imagine the groundsman's going, we need a result here, and we're probably going to get a result inside 3 days.
Yeah, well, we don't want that, but it's not good for Test cricket in the West Indies or Test cricket in general, is it? If we end up with a 3-match series that ends 0-0, I mean that's bad.
Yes, but again, what do you expect, right? This is a consequence of how Test cricket is set up to favour the big three. Well, it's one of those things, right? In terms of the impact on finances being kind of diversified and shared amongst member nations, etc. The impact of COVID on so many countries, like the economies have suffered like tremendously, and actually the level of support that they can get in terms of whether it's quantitative easing, fiscal policy, whatever, if we want to go into economics on kind of a Sunday night.
You're right.
But there are those pieces where what is the alternative, right? And actually, you definitely want people to be able to go or the grounds to make money. England do it. People are talking about, they're just doing it to kind of juice the revenue and the bottom line. Well, I don't think that's a very fair thing. Like they're kind of sitting there almost like an ivory tower, saying we don't do it. England do it all the time. Like Max, you're a Surrey fan, as we well know. The Oval, right? How I would like to see the stats on how many Test matches at the Oval have gone to the 5th day. 80%.
Probably quite a lot.
Yeah,
but it's fine if they create a pitch, put out a pitch that goes to the 5th day. If there's a chance of there being a result, that's the difference. Like, obviously, I am not a groundsman, so I don't know how to do it, and I assume it's a very difficult job. But you can, the goal should be a game where there is a result, and there is a result on the 5th day, and that's not. We've not been close to that so far. And that's kind of the issue, I guess. I mean, no one's asking for them to put something out where, everyone's 40 for 7 after 20 overs because the ball's just doing stupid things. It's just, you just want something that either gives a bit more for the bowlers with the new ball, or deteriorates a bit more towards the end. It's just there's just something in between, really at the moment. So, but it's just 2 games, so
and there's that bit, right? When you're having a podcast and you're trying, especially on cricket, and you're trying to discern something, it is what it is. Out of all the podcasts we've done in the last 10 days following this, it is what it is. I think we should wrap up there, Max. Ricken, Butch, Raj, thank you for joining us in the live chat. Appreciate the comments, appreciate the love, and we will be back. Like we've got so much IPL content coming up for you guys. We're releasing individual shows on every single team over the coming days. If you're listening to this on Spotify, on Monday, the 21st of March, you will be able to listen to all of the Group A together. We love covering the IPL, love covering England, but genuinely, the IPL is going to be far more interesting than this Test series has been, right? And that's just life. So thank you very much for listening. Have a nice evening and goodbye.
Cheerio.